If you need a pencil or pen, just let me know.
Yeah, if we can get you something to write with if you need to. As I mentioned, the black belt test is very different than the what we call the colored belts. The black belt test is only given twice a year, May and November. That's it. And it's a 2-day test. Right, 2 days. So they're both on Saturdays. They usually don't end until I get tired. Right? So you enjoy the 2-day test, don't you? Oh yeah. Your favorite part. All right. In order to test, you have to receive an invitation. Right? So this is what we call our invitation, our black belt packet, black belt invitation. It's multiple pages. We're going to come back to it and look at it in detail. But if you don't get this, you don't get the test. Right? Now, the way you're going to get this is through an evaluation. Well, let me pause. I skipped something. What rank is this? Senior red. All right. Some parents don't. It's easy for the kids or the students. Sometimes the parents don't always. So this is senior red. Vote on. In this case, second degree, second dawn. So dawn, degree, black belt, all kind of synonymous. They're all the same. Dawn is the Korean word for degree. Right? So this is a second dawn or a second degree. Right? This is a bow dawn. So these two are going to be kind of lumped together when we talk, and this will be an isolated conversation. Who is this rank? It's like some of you I recognize rank-wise. All right, good. If you're one of these guys, you probably have already done the test here, right? So all this should be like, yep, got it. But when we're going to make a distinction. Dan's, and then senior red belt. All right. This group, 1-day test. This group is the fun part. 2-day test, written test, a lot of fun. Right, David? Yeah. Any questions on the rank? So I'll pick these up from time to time to kind of give you a visual as we're talking about the different terms. So this group is required what we call a black belt prep class. It's 8 weeks. It starts next Saturday here. And the whole idea is those 8 weeks will get these students ready for both tests. Right? During this prep class is when they get evaluated. If you're a senior red belt, you're not required to do the prep class. The senior red belts will be evaluated the Monday, basically March 3rd, starting a Monday in class. So when you come to class, starting March 3rd, you'll have a sticker on your card, BB Eval, black belt evaluation. You'll go through your evaluation. If you pass, you'll get your invitation. If you don't pass, one of the instructors will sit down with the student and the parent and walk you through why you didn't pass. If you don't pass, you have 4 to 5 weeks to do a makeup evaluation. And that will have anywhere from 2 to 3 students that need that window of time to do a reevaluation to see if they're going to be eligible to test. Right. My goal is I want to make sure that you guys are successful at your belt test. And the only way we can do that is on the front end, ensure that you know all your forms and all your test requirements. What you do at the test is up to you. But I don't even want you to show up at the test if you don't know your forms for these belts. Right? Because I've had to fail people at the test, and I can tell you that's probably one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. But I will fail people because you are not going to be given a belt. Everybody will earn their belt. And if I've had a young guy, he was just coasting through the endurance test, David. He was just coasting, no sweat, he wasn't even red. And I walked up to him at a water break. I said, "You're about to fail." Because he was giving me about 60% effort. He looked good, but he was about to fail because he wasn't giving me his best. All right, everybody understand? All right. So we do an evaluation, and then you also have to, for this rank, once you get promoted, To this rank, you have to get 48 classes in order to test for this rank. Now that is typically 6 months, and that's typically 2 classes a week. That gives you your 48. Did anybody test in January for this belt, for their senior red belt? All right, Ms. Hannah. All right, so you went from a 6-month window to a 4-month window. Still doable. It's up to you. You have this option. You can either wait till November, or you can still get the 48 in the 4-month window. All right. So it's a number of classes, typically over 6 months. It could be shorter, it could be longer, depending on when you test. If you're not really, we'll monitor it, especially as we get closer. But and if someone is, like we had someone that only had 20 out of the 48 years ago, I'm like, look, I mean, you'd have to come every day for the next 3 weeks to even come close to being eligible. But we'll have a conversation with you guys if you're short. If you really need to know, you can usually ask Joey or Jessica at the pro shop. If you're here, if you're at one of the other locations, you might have to still call in here to be able to get you that information. All right, makeup test. Anybody do a makeup test when they're doing the colored belts? Not for a black belt. No makeup test, 0. They don't exist. We had an instructor a few years ago. He did the first test, the endurance, and then his wife was given birth the following week, and he chose to be at the hospital with her. Good choice, but he had to wait 6 months to finish his black belt test. All right, we don't do the makeup. We do have all the dates ahead of time, so if you're worried about vacation through Thanksgiving or in May, depending on what your test cycle is, just let us know. We can get you those dates. All right, so we briefly talked about the prep class for this group. It is required for the boat-ons and higher, and it's designed to get you ready for the endurance test, not the technical test. So the endurance test is nothing more than boot camp. Right, David? Right? Yeah, my favorite part.
He said, I like the endurance test.
Really? Yeah, I get to yell at everybody, so that's fun. As I mentioned, it's 8 classes. It's done here. So if you do at the other if you train at the other locations, you can come here and do a class in the morning, and then stay and do the endurance test or endurance class afterwards. At the prep class, it is not a place to learn your 1 steps. That's not where you learn your self-defense. You should already know that before you get to the prep class. The prep class allows us to tweak it, to improve it here and there, where you might need some guidance, but not to learn it. All right. So for this group, the boat-ons and higher, you guys will get a customized belt embroidered. And so when this happens, is we have to make sure that we get this information correctly, and then we have to make sure that the belt is long enough. Because if it gets tied in such a way that there's the knot, fantastic, this person got their name embroidered, but you can't see it because it's not long enough. So using math as our friend, we were able to use Excel and come up with a mathematical formula that we can measure the belt in 2 ways. Drop it into a formula, and it tells us how long of a belt we have to get. Right? Now, this is a size 3. This is a size 3, but they're different companies, different brands. So size 3 means nothing when you compare the 2. Because this might be 85 inches and this might be 90 inches. Right? So what we're going to do is, if you're one of these ranks or higher, we're going to have you measure your belt. So the first measurement is you open it all the way up and you measure it laying out. Like it's going to be 85 inches. The next measurement is from the tip to the knot. I need to know how long that is. Right? Don't add anything to it. So if it's already short, don't measure that and go, you know what, I want it 3 inches longer. Don't do that. Just measure it, because our formula will automatically adjust to give you the right distance. Okay? And then, of course, spelling is gonna be important. So if you think that if you have a challenging name, first name, last name, that is easy to misspell, or we've misspelled it in the past, please make sure that we're spelling it properly.
Or if you go by a certain name.
Yeah, if you want a certain name, I think you have.
Yeah, I have Liam. My
Yeah.
name's William. I wanted Liam on my belt, so I have Liam on my belt.
Yeah, so you can just let us know so we can adjust that. All right? If you're coming to the prep class, this group here will measure your belt when you come to the prep class. And in senior red belts, you don't have to have your belt measured until you're bowed on, right? So don't have to worry about that. So if you're coming to the prep class, we'll get it measured for you. There are sometimes we miss people coming to the prep class for whatever reason, we don't get it, and now we're like, oh, we're scrambling, we've gotta get it measured. And we'll either do it in class or call you up and have you do it over the phone. All right, questions so far? Save the dates. Did we already send out the text with a link?
Yes.
All right, I believe, hopefully you've received a text with a link to save the dates electronically. So we have a web page, a landing page out there that if you got the link, you should be able to click on it, and it just makes for a nice reference. You can pull this back up at any point and go, okay, when's the application deadline? When's the essay due? And then you can just quickly look at those dates. Now, on this piece of paper, I don't know how similar the online version is this. I think it's pretty similar. But on this piece of paper, it's broken up into 3 sections: get started, deadlines, and test dates. So get started is kind of like today, like this orientation. It deals with the prep class getting started. We'll come back to the pictures here in a minute. Then deadlines, the application deadline, the essay deadline, the bio, and the shout outs. Those are all deadlines because those deadlines, those items go into the program. So we have to have those back at a deadline, like an early enough deadline, so we can prepare this, get it to the printer, and get these back before the test. So we do have a deadline, and then the actual test date. So the written test and the endurance test. In this case, it is May 3rd. It's for this group here. So if you're not a bowed on or higher, you're not doing the endurance or the written test. All 3, everybody is doing the technical test May 10th. Now, if you're a senior red belt and you're doing this on May 10th, in November, well, in May, you're getting this. In November, you'll be testing for this. So in November, you'd be testing both days. But not if you're this belt, just one day. Is that enough confusion? Did I confuse everybody? All right, so this packet, the kind of the invitation. So the cover is going to talk about the dates, the time. As just another, we try to keep it in multiple places for you guys. The second page, you're going to have two columns, senior red belt and Dan. So it will tell you what is required and what is not required. So if you're looking at the senior red belt column, that second row where it says black belt prep class, not required. But it is required for the Dans. And so you can kind of go right down that column and it can just give you a quick summary of what's required and what's not required. Again, we realize how confusing it can be when you're trying to go, okay, what rank am I and where do I fall on this? So we always look at what rank are you right now, and then you match it up to what's in here. Now the next page, page 3, is the senior red belt requirements. This page 3 and page 4 are they're structured very much the same. But on the senior red belt requirement page, there's going to be a lot of NAs. does talk about the minimal classes of 48, the black belt test application, the essay paper, not required, written test, not required, endurance test, not required, the technical test. At the technical test, you have to do two board breaks if you're a senior red belt. One hand and one foot. If you're a Dan or higher, you have to do 4 board breaks. Typically one hand and then 3, wrong number, 3 something, like elbows, knees, something other than just another hand. Right? The nice thing is if you're one of these guys, you'll see how they're doing theirs. So then you have 6 months to kind of go, oh, okay, I got some ideas. I like what he did, I want to copy what he did. I like what she did, I want to copy one of her moves, and then you come out piece it together for your own. So whatever rank you are, just kind of read whatever's appropriate for this. Page 4 is the Dan requirements. At the very bottom of the Dan requirements, you got the Bodon is 1 column. The middle column is the first degrees, and then the third column is the second degrees. So the requirements do shift a little bit, and it's so, even though everybody's a Dan, it summarizes what those shifts, what those additional requirements are. At any point that you guys are confused or you're not sure exactly what that added requirement is, when you're in class, just let Mr. Wells, Master Wendell know, some of the other instructors, and they'll walk you through what those requirements, what those look like differently. One of the big ones, the difference would be if you're a Bodon, you're just doing sparring. But if you're a second degree, you're doing sparring, Taekwondo sparring, you're doing boxing, and you have to do stand-up pummeling. And you can see that at the very bottom, that last row. Yes, sir.
On these 3 columns, is this the belt they currently are?
Yes,
or the
sir.
belt they're going
No,
to?
always a good question. So the way I avoid myself being confused, I try to be consistent on what rank am I? And then I match up what rank am I based on what's on here.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the Bodon is that one. Okay, so there's nothing for the red belts on, okay, someone in the requirements.
Exactly, yes. Yeah. That's the easiest way for me to keep it straight. All right. All right, the next page is the application page. Now, the way this is, maybe not this packet, it might be more the packet you actually get. This application page is the last page. So when you can just rip it off when you go to turn it in. It's a little bit out of order on this sample packet. But in the middle, there's 2 columns. You got, on the left side, you have the senior red belts, and then on the right side, you have the Dans. Everything has to be turned in together. You cannot piecemeal it. Right now, we don't have super big tests, but at one point, at a black belt test, we were having close to 50 people testing. And if we were trying to get essays and shout outs and bios and their written test, not the written test, but the application itself, if we're getting these in piecemeal, to keep track of it was just a nightmare. So it's either all or none. So when you turn it in, if you're one of the Dans and you have to do an essay, when you turn this in, you have to present your essay. If you don't have your essay, then we're just gonna go, here, bring this back when you have your essay. Who gets to do an essay this go around? Good, okay. You guys worried about your essays?
No.
No? All right, let's go, I'm gonna take a step back. I'm sorry, let's go back to page number 4. At the top is the essay paper. We did have to do this years ago, maybe not so much anymore, but we had to indicate what font size. Please don't put font 20. And the margin sizes. We've had margins of like 3 inches, and I'm like, no, we just can't do that. The essay is not, I am not an English teacher. I'm a math person. Give me numbers, I'm happy. Give me words, I get a little confused. So we're not going to be grading them from that standpoint. But I do want you to take it serious. This is, write it, be professional, put some effort into this. So we're not great in it, but I don't want it to be sloppy either. The idea is not so much that you're, how do I phrase it?
This isn't an English assignment?
It's not an English assignment, but I want you guys to reflect. How long ago was it? Did you guys start last week, last month, last year? Like, we're talking about years ago you guys started, right? Do you remember what you were like 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago? What are you like now? We call that reflecting. Reflecting on what your journey was like. What has it meant to you? Have you even slowed down to think about it? This is a big deal. 3 out of 100 people get their first degree. That's not very many people. That's a big deal, reaching that accomplishment. So what does it mean to you? So slow down and write it kind of from your heart. What does it mean? And so there's some topics that you can use. Why I do martial arts, and what does it mean? How martial arts has changed me or affected my life. The definition of a black belt. How my black belt affects my future. I mean, those are just some samples. And you could write about all 4 of those topics in one essay. I want you to think about what it means to you. Now, as a parent, save it. Because when they go for their next test or their 3rd test or their 4th test, and you've got these essays side by side, you may not know this, but it's amazing. And when I read them, I can't tell you how many times I'm like, oh my God, I didn't know that was important to that student. Right? So from a parent standpoint, it's pretty impactful. So do keep it, right? Or keep a copy of it. I want a copy. All right. Any questions about the application? I kind of digressed and went back to the essay, because a lot of times the essay is not always ready to be turned in with the application, so I had to make a specific point with that.
So for the written test, is there any like reading materials for them?
Good question. So I don't know where that is in part of this process. No, it's okay. The written test, if you're doing it for you only have to do the written test twice. What rank are you? 3rd. Okay, so you don't have to do a written test. You don't have to do it twice. The first one is a multiple choice. The second time you do it is a short answer. Right? They're about 115 questions. If you attend the black belt prep class, every question on that written test is discussed in the prep class at the end. So if you show up and you listen, we give you the answers. Right? So part of this is I've been to enough schools and I've been around long enough. I've been doing this for 37 years. It's amazing when I've talked to students that are black belts that don't know how much to pivot for a roundhouse kick. Or how much do you pivot for a back kick? Or what does, I don't know, I can't think of some of the other questions that we might have on there, but we want all our black belts to at least have that knowledge so that you're talking to a yellow belt or a lower rank student. We don't want you to sound ignorant. We want them to go, wow, you know what you're talking about, versus you're a black belt, I'm a yellow belt, and you don't know how much you pivot. In my mind, you just lost credibility as a student. And we don't want that to happen to our students, so we want to make sure that they have that knowledge. So that's partly what the written test is all about. You will be graded and you can fail the written test. But as long as you're paying attention, there's no trick questions. They're not really hard. But you do have to pay attention.
And you're welcome to take notes at the prep class
Yeah.
or record it, however you want to do it.
Yeah. And I think they're all on YouTube. So if you miss a prep class,
Yeah.
all 8 of them, you just have to figure out, we can tell you, oh, you missed the 3rd session, then you just go to our YouTube channel, find the 3rd week, watch that. And it is a fraction of the time because it's more just knowledge-based versus doing-based.
We have a playlist on YouTube with all the prep classes in one playlist.
I'm going to kind of jump a little bit. At the bottom of the application, it talks about shout-outs. Shout-out is what goes in this program more towards the back, where parents, grandparents, family members can kind of put some kind of congratulations, way to go. Heck, you guys might even have one with Liam when he was a much smaller.
Probably. There's probably one in there.
Actually, I think it is in the packet, in this packet here. Oh yeah, that's Liam and his sister there. When he was a little dragon.
I might have a picture of me with him as a little dragon.
And so, yeah, a lot of times when they put these shout outs in, they'll put like a before and after almost, like here's when they were a white belt, and now they're going for their boat on or something. The next page on the packet is the bio. Only if you're Dan or higher do you fill out the bio. So if you're a senior red belt, you don't have to do the bio. Now, in order to keep all that straight on the application page, as a senior red belt, the bio is crossed off. So again, we've tried to list it out multiple ways and tried to indicate that it's here, but you don't have to do it, we cross it off. And then in the invitation packet, the final, I guess really 2 pages, are the shout out. And so it talks about, gives you some examples, the pricing, and then the very, very last page is kind of an example of where people have done just a one-liner. This is kind of a one-liner, and this is where they either done a third of the page or 2/3 of the page, or they can do the whole page. Any questions so far? Written test. Who's doing the written test? 2 down here, 3, couple down. Okay, so written test and the endurance test are done the same day. All right, in this case, May 3rd. Written test starts at 9 o'clock. By, I think it's 11 o'clock, I kick you out, whether you're done or not. Now, if you're not done, don't panic, because you can finish it on Monday or Tuesday of the following week. But at 11 o'clock, I have to kick you out because I need you to get something to eat and be prepared for the the test at 12 o'clock. All right? Because at 12 o'clock, we start and we go, yeah. So Saturday's going to be a long day. So you'll start off with the mental, taking the written test, take a little bit of break, and then be back here ready to go at 12 o'clock. Questions about that? Let's see. I'm just looking through my notes to see if there was anything that I missed that might be helpful for you guys. Anybody nervous about the endurance test? Good, you should be. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, good. Don't worry, everybody will be suffering right with you, so it's a good bonding moment. It'll be good. Endurance is nothing but a bunch of torture. Sweating and just like, yeah, heart pounding. All right, now the technical test will be the following week, because if you're doing the endurance test, you almost need 3, 4, 5 days to recover. So we give you a whole week to recover so that at the post-endurance test, you're ready for the technical test. At the technical test, every time you make a mistake, there's a point off. You miss enough points, you fail the test. Right? So the testing is structured slightly different, a lot harder. But that's where all 3 groups will be present, and everybody will kind of get to see, especially this group, kind of get to see at least what the technical test looks like, and then come November, when you're testing for your first degree, now you're actually going to be doing both tests. quick, going back to the program, if you're testing for one of the first, second, third, you'll get your picture, your bio in here as an example. And then if you are one of the senior red belts, if you're one of these, you'll be listed out as perseverance, never give up even when it gets tough, and kind of list out your names. Any other questions about the test? Everybody got it?
How long is the test for?
There is no set time. It's just when we start. So honestly, until I get tired. Depends on how many Red Bulls I had beforehand. Yeah, partly we will not, now, as a parent, if you guys have something you have to be, like you have a scheduling challenge, let me know privately and we'll talk. But I never tell the students, because otherwise they're looking at that clock going, I've got another 15 minutes, I got another 30 minutes. Nope. I want, the endurance test is designed to build a mental toughness. And I remember, hopefully he doesn't get upset, when he was younger, middle school, maybe high school, just he was going through something challenging. And we talked about it, and I go, well, how does it compare to your black belt test? Is it harder? And he's like, no. And I go, well, you survived your black belt test. And he was able to lean on that and give himself some strength internally and kind of oh, I did that. Well, then I can do this. It's that mental toughness that you've got to have. You adults, you guys know this. Life is going to get you. Life is going to kind of hit you, knock you down. And what do? As a student, let's use the martial arts to teach more than just kicking and punching. And that's what we want. We want them to kind of I survived that. I earned that. I did that. And that confidence allows them to draw upon whenever they get into challenges in life, whether it be in high school, college, or even beyond. Right? So the endurance test is designed for a mental toughness. So therefore, we don't want them to know when it's going to end. Because we don't know what life is where it's going to end. A tough day, tough week, tough month. We don't always know when it's going to end either. What other questions? The endurance test. Most people will be here for the technical, watching. A lot of family members. The endurance test, it can get a little boring if you're a spectator, unless you just like to see your child tortured. Because they might go, all right, everyone line up one of the wave masters and go 300 kicks, go. And then you're just kind of they're counting to themselves, 1, 2, 3. And then everybody's just waiting. So you're welcome to be here for the endurance test, but most everybody is here for the technical test. That's where the fun is. Anything else? All right. As you guys think about this over the next couple of weeks, you have questions, give us a call, stop one of the instructors in class, and they should be able to help answer any questions that you might have. And of course, utilize some of the other students that have already tested for the higher ranks. They can kind of give you some horror stories and feedback and kind of guidance. All right. Well, if that's it, if you guys, on your way out, if you'll put the programs in one pile and the sample in another pile for us.